Hello viewers and welcome back to the Elite Karting Series. Round 5 here at Paul Fletcher International, the first time the series has visited this great racetrack. Split 1 Race 2 is about to get underway and the grid is looking very close indeed. Chris Fuller is on pole position ahead of Jamie Sheerman-Chase, just the 4/10 of a second separating the drivers on the front row of the grid. Olly Smith and debutant Scott Woosey are on row 2, with Adrian Perez-Soroso in 5th position alongside Carlos Almanis on row 3. Chris Phillips is in a very strong 7th position with Jack Metcalf alongside him on row 4 of the grid. Row 5 is made up of George Braun and another debutant, Harrison Fisher. Callum Benchelo and Graham Fernandez are on row 6 of the grid, with Lewis Jolly alongside the promoted Adam Barras on the back row of the grid. So Split 1 Race 2 is getting underway shortly here. All the drivers are out on the grid. It's Jamie Sheerman-Chase and Chris Fuller who will be alongside each other as they make their way into turn 1. We go to the lights, 4 of them, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go, and it's a good start for Jamie Sheerman-Chase on the outside line, but has he got the run on Chris Fuller as they make their way into turn 1? He does, just about squeezes into the lead of the race. Olly Smith under pressure from Adrian Perez as they make their way into turn 3, just about squeezes ahead of Adrian and into 3rd position as well. Chris Fuller looking back for the lead of the race down the inside line as they go over the Litchfield Bridge, but no way through. Carlos Almanis is getting swallowed up at the moment. He's under pressure from all sorts of people as he just about holds on to that position, slots in behind George Braun now, trying to get alongside and down the inside. He's trying to focus on getting ahead of Callum Benchelo, just ahead of him. He gains 1 position for the time being and now focuses on Callum Benchelo ahead. Scott Woosey back down the inside line though of Adrian Perez, trying to find a way back through. Not quite able to do so though, and stays where he is, gets that run on the outside line. Olly Smith meanwhile catching up to Jamie Sheerman-Chase, who's now lost the lead to Chris Fuller.
Yeah, meanwhile Scott Woosey has seen Adrian Perez just breeze around the outside of him. It was a brilliant start from Callum Benchelo, by the way, to gain a couple of places, but he was completely sideways. Spectacular to watch now, but at the end of lap 1 then, it's still Jamie Sheerman-Chase trying to defend that 2nd place from, I think that's Olly Smith right on his heels and going up the inside into turn 1.
Olly Smith tries to get around the outside and he does, able to find his way through. Carlos Almanis is being swallowed up meanwhile as well. He got overtaken by Harrison Fisher just about half a lap ago and has now been overtaken once again. So this is frustrating stuff for Carlos Almanis at this point. George Braun keeping an eye on Callum Benchelo just ahead of him is Scott Woosey trying to get himself past Adrian Perez as well. George has the run on Callum Benchelo, has the run on Carlos Almanis. George to the outside line, might be boxed in a little bit here, tries to fly around the outside line, but Callum Benchelo holds on to the position. Now looks to attack Carlos Almanis. Will be 3 wide briefly here as Harrison Fisher's trying to make progress in the top of your picture. George Braun getting through on Callum Benchelo, not getting through on Carlos Almanis as Callum back down the inside line is able to squeeze his way through, as meanwhile Scott Woosey is overtaken as well. So this is slightly frustrating for Scott Woosey as Harrison Fisher's on the outside line. Now Scott back down the inside of Harrison Fisher. Harrison makes a bit of a mistake, forced out onto the curb, and that allows Scott through, but it's incredible racing from everyone here in about the top 8.
Exactly, yes, and great progress made on this lap by Jack Metcalf to get up to 5th, 2 places gained there. But look at the mix. Almanis is trying to go around the outside of Benchelo with Fisher just in front of him as well, and there's not a whole lot of space here if they're not careful around as they go around the uphill left-hander over the bridge.
They do. Callum Benchelo gets a good run. He tries to go down the inside line. Is he able to squeeze his way through? He is on the Litchfield Bridge. That was very borderline. Harrison Fisher loses out, now goes down the inside as the leaders are having a battle, as well as Olly Smith tries to get past Chris Fuller now, but goes back to the inside line and well, able to get himself into the lead momentarily. Into hairpin 2 they go, and Chris Fuller holds on that inside line. Olly back to the outside line though, gets the run now as they made their way through turn 8 and turn 9 all the way around the outside line. Olly Smith is able to gain himself the lead of the race for the first time in a while. What can Jamie Sheerman-Chase do then, as he's trying to battle along with Chris Fuller? So 2 main battles going on at this point in the race. Jamie not really able to find a way through on Chris Fuller, and Dan Perez catching up as well. Ed, what's going on in midfield?
All sorts. I think Carlos Almanis was raising his hands, gesticulating, and he's doing it again as he's across the start-finish line as he just tries to wipe something off his visor, and now he's having a go here at Graham Fernandez, and they make contact into turn 1. And Carlos is not happy about it at all at the moment.
No, he's not, as I'm keeping an eye on the leaders as Jamie Sheerman-Chase continuing to put pressure on Chris Fuller as George Braun flies down the inside of Harrison Fisher, tries to cut those lines across once again. Harrison able to hold on for the time being though, as Olly Smith comfortable in the lead of the race at the moment. He's got a couple of kart lengths and that might be all he needs, as side by side between Chris Fuller and Jamie Sheerman-Chase. If you can barely make that out on the drone shot, Chris Fuller on the inside line. Jamie looks to cross the lines across and does. Down into turn 8 though, it's going to be Chris Fuller holds on to second position. Callum Bendolo is broken away from this pack a little bit. It's Jack Metcalf's made his way into 5th position, so it's got Woosey at the moment in 7th position, rather. Harrison Fisher in 8th. George Braun and Graham Fernandez, Carlos Arbon is your top 11. That battle starting to lengthen out a little bit as Jamie Sheerman-Chase continues to pressurise Chris Fuller for second.
Nice move near the back of the field there for 11th and 10th position then, as I look at Carlos Imanes desperately trying to hold on then to that 11th as he has another go at Graham Fernandez, and it's almost a replay of the previous lap, and in fact Carlos comes off by far the worst from that collision.
Does, and almost takes out Chris Phillips in the process, so that's frustrating stuff for Carlos Arbon. He's really sinking in this race. We've still got plenty of battling going on. Let's ride on board with George Braun as he's got Harrison Fisher just ahead of him as they make their way down into hairpin 1. Can George dive to the inside line? He can't. That would be far too over-ambitious, and I think he knows that, as we've got side-by-side action once again for second position in the race as Jamie Sheerman-Chase tried to the outside into hairpin 2, couldn't get himself to the inside for turn 8, and has to stay where he is for the time being. We'll keep one eye on that as now Harrison Fisher looks to dive down the inside line of Scott Woosey. Can't quite find a way through. Scott didn't even see Harrison coming there. Might allow George Braun to have a look as there's side-by-side Carlos Arbon. It's on the grass. My word, what happened there, Ed?
Yeah, it looked like he almost just got bullied out of the way by Graham Fernandez there. So the two getting very, very physical indeed. And Carlos, the red mist has started to descend in the man in the blue suit, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and this is really, really frustrating stuff for Carlos Arbon, who I believe has received a couple of warning boards already in this race, as George Braun now continues to look at Harrison Fisher, who's battling along with Scott Woosey, as the battle in the lead, by the way, for those interested, has evened out a little bit. George Braun down the inside line. Harrison Fisher covers him off for the time being. Now out off the Litchfield Bridge they go, with George getting the run again on Harrison Fisher. This time it's just about a good enough run. He's going to be alongside here as they make their way down into the braking zone. Can he get to the apex first? He can. George Braun gets the position, has to leave the space. There will be 3 wide as well, with Scott Woosey on the inside line. Scott trying to hold on to this spot. Harrison Fisher around the outside line. George Braun looking for the switchback again and gets it now on the inside line of Scott Woosey into turn 8. George Braun with one of the moves of the season so far. They were 3 wide there.
Yes, exactly. Especially we saw on the previous lap how not to do it, and up the inside goes Fisher as well. So Woosey loses 2 positions there, but Braun positioned himself very, very well to take advantage of that and cut underneath, stay out of trouble, and he played it very, very smart there. But meanwhile, the leaders, looks like Chris Fuller, winner in race 1, has started to fight back against Olly Smith here. So Smith might be looking over his shoulder ever so slightly in the next couple of laps as we are getting towards the final stages now.
Absolutely, Carlos Arbon is still battling along Chris Phillips for those who are interested. Olly then in the lead of the race ahead of Chris Fuller. He's won plenty of EKS races in the past as Olly Smith, and Chris Fuller looking to stop him winning just one more. But at the moment, as I said, Olly Smith is looking pretty confident whereabouts he is. Let's keep an eye on them on the drone shot then as they go through hairpin 2. Looks like Olly is able to have about a kart length or so. Jamie Sheerman-Chase has fallen down a little bit further behind. Adrian Professoroso is in 4th position at the moment, ahead of Jack Metcalf in 5th. So your top 2 really where the battles are held at the moment, and they are very, very close together.
Yeah, meanwhile, Carlos Imanes has actually caught up to Woosey here. So Imanes, he's hoping to finally make some ground in this race down in 12th position then. But up front though, the leaders nose to tail then as they cross the line once again. Looks like Jamie Sheerman-Chase is starting to be dropped out of that lead fight.
Yeah, just a correction, that's Chris Phillips, I believe, that Carlos Arbon has caught up to. He's been pressurising him for the last couple of laps. Scott Woosey's in 9th position, just ahead of Graham Fernandez at the moment, as Chris Fuller all over the back of Olly Smith as they go off the Litchfield Bridge down into hairpin 1. Olly has a look over his shoulder. He's got to duck into the steering wheel. He knows straight line speed so important around this circuit. looks like he'll defend into this braking zone. He's got to be so smooth, Olly, otherwise he's going to be pounced on here by Chris Fuller as they're side by side into hairpin 2. You can't really tell if Olly's on board, but now Chris Fuller goes to the inside line. He's about half a nose alongside here, Olly Smith, as they go into turn 8. Just enough for Olly to have to give him the room. Olly on the outside line, they make a bit of contact. Olly is muscled out. Chris Fuller with a very aggressive but just about fair move for the lead of the race in my book, and he gets back into the lead.
Yeah, he really had to hold his nerve there, and Olly Smith was not going to make that easy for him by any stretch of the imagination there, but Chris Fuller then back where he was at the end of race 1, and now just a handful of laps to go. Just needs to make sure that Olly Smith doesn't get revenge here. So look at Jack Metcalf, by the way, on the drone shot. He's caught right up to Jamie Sheerman-Chase. What a charging drive he's had throughout this one.
Yeah, this is a big one for Jack Metcalf, actually, as by my reckoning, as Olly's back through down the inside of Chris Fuller. Excuse me, didn't spot that. We'll keep an eye back on Jamie Sheerman-Chase in a moment, but Olly Smith, in the dramatic closing stage of this race, has managed to find his way back through as Jack Metcalf still in pursuit of that podium. Olly then trying to hold on for what I can imagine will be just one more lap. I don't think the checkered flag will greet them at the end of this lap. Instead, I think we've got to wait for the next lap, although we'll wait and see. It might be this lap. The timing is a little bit dodgy as to whether we'll just get to 0 seconds as they get to the line, or whether we'll get one more lap in. Let's wait and see. If it is the final lap, then Olly Smith has got to defend throughout sector 3 here. Jamie Sheerman-Chase looks over his shoulder. Jack Metcalf is very, very close to him. They make their way all the way around sector 3. Last chance potentially then for Chris Fuller as they make their way up to the line. We'll see whether it's the checkered flag this time or whether they squeeze one more in. It is the checkered flag this time by, and it's Olly Smith who gets in a dramatic move on the final lap of the race. Jamie Sheerman-Chase and Jack Metcalf drag race up to the line, and just about Jamie Sheerman-Chase holds on to third position, but it is Olly Smith dramatically on the final lap of the race who gets himself in to the lead.
Olly Smith ended up taking a fantastic victory then in that race, ahead of Chris Fuller by only 0.3 of a second at the finish line. That was a great final lap overtake by him heading into turn number 3. Jamie Sheerman-Chase led briefly at the start of lap number 1 and ended up finishing in P3 right in front of Jack Metcalf. There was 0.03 seconds between them at the finish line, with Adrian Perez then rounding out the top 5 ahead of Callum Bendelo. Callum had a great drive in that race, started 11th on the grid, ended up finishing up in P6, only a 10th behind Adrian. That's a big improvement on his first race, whilst George Braun had his best ever result in the EKS, coming home in P7 right in front of Harrison Fisher. Scott Woosey and Chris Phillips ran out the top 10, whilst Graham Fernandez got rather feisty there with Carlos Hermanis in that race. Things got a little bit heated, as you may have seen. Lewis Jolly ended up coming home in 12th place ahead of Adam Barras, and Carlos Hermanis, he did get black flagged for his part to play in that battle with Graham Fernandez, hence why he finished 2 laps off of the lead. That'll be a race that he will quickly like to forget. We can now head down to the grandstand where we have Jamie Sheerman-Chase.
Okay, I'm here with Jamie Sheerman-Chase. We had a photo finish at the end of that race with Jack. How did that go for you?
Quite annoying. Not the best car, but there's not much you can do about it. Just pulled my way through. Had a good watch of a battle in front of me, but I was kind of just in no man's land until the end, really. Literally, the closest you can get across the line. Timing system says I won, so I won.
And how are you finding the track?
I'm loving the track. Quite local to me, about an hour and a half, so I've been here quite a few times compared to some of the other drivers. Such a fast pace, high grip. It's really fun to race on, especially as well.
Well done.
Thank you.